All right, guys, so if you clicked on this video, it's probably because you're wondering, what is medical device sales? What is it like day to day? What's the job actually like? Is it a good career path to pursue in 2026 and beyond? And how much can I actually make? And finally, can I even break in given my level of experience? So we're going to dive into these 5 topics so you know everything you need to know before pursuing medical device sales. So first, what is medical device sales? So for context, I broke into medical device sales out of college and it completely changed my life. I was making multiple six figures by age 24. I was able to afford multiple properties, multiple sports cars, have more than the average person set up for retirement by the age 30. I did it for 7 years. I was among one of the fastest reps to ever get promoted to a senior role in just 10 months. And by the time I left the industry, I was #1 rep nationally. I'm not saying this to boast you guys. I'm telling you this because I have a lot of context to bring to this conversation. So let's talk about what medical device sales is. So medical device companies are companies that create technology typically for surgical application. Now, the medical device umbrella can be very broad, but most of the time it has to do with technology that is used in surgery. Now, it's either used in the hospital setting or a clinic setting. So by clinic, you can think a dentist's office. Those are technically medical devices, or like a dermatology office where they may do skin cancer removal. The tools that are used there, those are medical devices as well. But most of the time when we're talking medical device, we're talking something that's used in the hospital operating room or a surgical center. And we could get really into the weeds on the different types of medical devices, the different types of medical device companies and positions. But for the most part, you represent a company that provides a medical device and you sell to hospitals and doctors. So here's a good example. I used to work for a company called Olympus, and one of the product categories that they had were scopes that were used in laparoscopy. So you would be a representative of the company, and your goal is to sell more scopes. And you would do this by meeting with surgeons, introducing the technology to them, getting them interested in the technology, and then ultimately going to the hospital or the surgery center where they would then purchase the equipment. Sometimes that means going to a place that doesn't buy anything from you and they start ordering stuff. And sometimes that means that you go to a hospital that already orders stuff from you and you're just getting them to order more of it. Either way, it's a very relationship-based sale. And that's actually a plus. This isn't one of those sales environments where it's very transactional, like car sales or solar sales or any of that stuff. You actually sell by building relationships and being a valuable partner to the hospital. And that's actually a really nice way to be a sales rep, is you're more of a valuable technology partner that helps educate the doctors, the nurses, the staff on how to use it and integrate it. This means there's less pressure on you to try to like sell people, and it's less like salesy and gimmicky. It's actually really cool. You really just build relationships with these people. I don't care what anyone says, man. The best medical device sales reps are the ones that are just really good relationship builders and problem solvers. This isn't some environment where you have to have a sleazy talk track. You are basically just an educator on the technology, and you help to strategically make it a fit for the hospital or clinic. And this is really cool for a lot of reasons. I mean, first off, it's recession proof. The technology is advancing so often, so rapidly, so quickly that there will always be a need for people to explain and implement it into the healthcare setting. Healthcare's not going anywhere, guys. And then the other really cool component of this is it's truthfully life-saving. You are providing technology that is more often than not used in a therapeutic surgical setting, which means you are directly impacting the lives of patients. There are very few people that sell anything that actually is making a huge impact on the world in a positive way. You genuinely are. And not only are you impacting the patient that's on the table being operated on using your technology, but I can't tell you how many times you would provide technology to a surgeon, and then after that surgery, the doctor would say, dude, I couldn't have done that without you there, without you guiding me through that. So it's very rewarding. Now, there are lots of other reasons why this is an incredible place to work. The income potential, which we're going to talk about, as well as the day-to-day autonomy and freedom of construct your own schedule. It's very entrepreneurial. The skills you develop here are also so invaluable to you in every aspect of life. Because again, you're learning to educate and speak with surgeons, high-level people on a day-to-day basis. And you learn how to be a problem solver and navigate complex sales environments. Translatable skills for literally anything in life, any company, any job, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur. You develop interpersonal skills, contracts, numbers, financial justifications. You interact with CFOs. You interact with purchasing folk. The list goes on. Now, that's med device sales in a nutshell, but what is it actually like day to day? Now, this varies a lot based on the company and the product that you provide, but most of the time it boils down to this. You are on the road bouncing from account to account. So this will be either hospitals or surgery centers, depending on your place of business. You will typically be in surgeries, like literally in the OR, 5 feet from the table. And this would be either to support surgeries where the technology is being used, so you can help the nurses and the scrub techs and the doctors, or sometimes this is literally just to pop into a hospital to engage in some sort of business discussion, or you're doing an education session and in service. Really, all of your activities day to day boil down to these two things: spreading the word of your technology and supporting your technology. And everything in between is usually you bouncing around and or doing some administrative work. And this is really cool because again, you get to construct your schedule every single day. You get to choose what's the most productive thing to do for yourself. You're not in the same place every day. You're not stuck behind a desk. It's kind of like you get the stability of a W-2 feel of a job with the freedom, creativity, and flexibility of being an entrepreneur with your own business and the income potential, which we're going to talk about. Now, your days will start early because typically you're on the clock of the hospital and they start surgery at 7 in the morning, and you're going to be on the road for a bit, bouncing from account to account. Depending on the job, sometimes this is a lot less intense. You have a much smaller geography. You're not spending that much time on the road. And some days you probably won't even leave your house. You'll actually be at home doing administrative work. Although top reps keep that to an absolute minimum. Top reps are always out in the field. But that's typically what it's like. Sometimes you have lunches with doctors to promote your product. Sometimes you'll have dinners with doctors to promote your product. Every product that you support or company that you work for is going to have a slight variation in what the day-to-day looks like, just based on how intense the clinical support of the product is going to be. So if you're in like orthopedic sales, that's a very OR case heavy, clinical heavy place to be. Whereas if you're in capital sales, selling really big ticket items like the robot, that's more business, a little bit less case support, and so on and so forth. So either way, you're going to have some case support, you're going to have some business tasks. Now, the cool thing of it being a field-based sales position and you being out on the road day to day is more often than not, your car is paid for and your mileage is paid for. When I worked in medical device sales, I worked for a large company and they gave me a car. I didn't have to pay for the car. I could use it as my personal vehicle, didn't have to pay for mileage, didn't have to pay for maintenance. That alone factored in an additional 5 figures in income I was saving. It was like the greatest thing ever to help accelerate my wealth. And that leads us into point number 3, which is like, is it a good career path? I mean, up to this point, based on everything that I've said, you're probably nodding your head saying, yeah, this sounds pretty good. And I guess it's important to define what a good career path is. In my mind, a good career path is high income potential, long-term growth potential, upward and lateral mobility, meaning I could pivot into different industries or companies pretty easily, autonomy, work-life balance, and skill development. This literally is a 10 out of 10 on every single one of these. Every single one of these categories. You can make multiple 6 figures literally right out of the gate, which we'll talk about. There is a clear progression path. You go from junior rep to senior rep to sales management, which you can then laterally move into so many other positions in the company, all pay 6 figures. Marketing, training, product development, and all of these skills are so translatable into literally any industry. You could pivot into software sales if you really wanted to. You could pivot into other areas of tech sales, so on and so forth. And yes, I would argue that the work-life balance is actually really great. Now, again, I say this with a grain of salt because I am strongly against going into things with the expectation that you have to work very little and you are seeking the least amount of work, guys. Like, you're going to work hard in medical device sales, especially if you want to be successful. But with that comes the freedom and autonomy of creating your schedule day to day. And sometimes you're going to be in the field way less and not working like an absolute dog all the time. Not only that, if your long-term ambition is to not even be in corporate and be an entrepreneur and be a business owner, you are quite literally in the most entrepreneurial position on the planet. Each day you wake up and you are responsible for your book of business. So you get to construct the relationships how you like. You get to build your days how you like. You get to learn how to navigate sales environments and grow business and market yourself. It's so entrepreneurial, so entrepreneurial, but you get the stability of a full-time job and you get the income potential of entrepreneurs. So that leads me into point number 4, which is how much can I actually make? So again, this will greatly depend on what product you sell, what company you work for, and what your position is and your performance. But with that being said, the average medical device sales rep makes $150,000 to $250,000 a year. The average. Now, most of you watching this video are likely going to be coming in as a complete beginner, which is you're a junior rep, you're an associate rep, and they typically start out making anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 a year. But the path to progression is very quick. Like I said, I got promoted in 10 months from junior to senior rep. So not only do you start out making great money right out of the gate, sometimes literally hired at 6 figures, but in just 1 to 2 years time max, you are making 150 plus. Now here's the cool thing. That 150 plus is your on target earning. That is how much you are expected to make by just doing your job. And if you overachieve, you can very easily trickle into $200,000, $300,000. Guys, I am not kidding. I have worked alongside people that have made $400,000, $500,000, even $1 million in take home income. I'm not kidding. The income potential is there because the dollar amount is so high of the transactions that you're doing and you get a piece of that. Not only that, it's a performance-based position. So if you work in the same role in the same company for 2, 3, 4 years at a time, your customer base just compounds and compounds and compounds and grows and grows and grows theoretically for doing your job. But with that being said, you make more money when that happens. So the realistic expectation is, as a complete beginner, I would anticipate you to be walking in making $80,000 a year at a minimum, plus the great benefits, the 401k, the healthcare, car being paid for. I mean, that in and of itself equates to you making over 6 figures versus the average person. But with that being said, in just 1 and 2 years time, you could be making $150,000, $200,000 just like that, just like I did. Now, that leads us nicely into our last question. Can I even break in? So there's nuances here, there's exceptions here, but let me boil it down as simple as possible. If you have no experience, you can absolutely break in. If you have a bachelor's degree with no experience, you can absolutely break in. If you don't have a bachelor's degree and you don't have experience, it will be tougher to break in, but you can break in. You just have to pursue the right roles in the right company. You're probably wondering why. You're probably wondering how it's even possible that you can break into this industry with little experience. And the reality is this is a sales position. Most people don't want to do sales, and most people are not good at sales. It takes a certain type of person to go into an industry industry like this. Now, you will not get hired right out of the gate as a senior level sales position. They are looking for experience in those roles. You will have to get hired as a junior rep. But here's the thing is when you are a junior rep, the sole purpose of that role is to support the senior reps, which means you don't have to be a very sales-oriented person to do that. You need to be a sales-oriented person to get promoted. As a junior rep, they want to see that you're coachable, that you have grit, that you're enthusiastic, that you're humble and persistent. And that's the beautiful thing is you just need to embody these traits. Now, of course, your resume needs to be dialed, your LinkedIn needs to be dialed, and this is a very, very competitive industry to break into. The interview process is not easy. Your resume's got to be good, your LinkedIn's got to be polished, and you've got to network your way in the right way. It is extremely rare that people just apply to these jobs and get them. It does not happen like that. You need to know people, you need to network your way in. So if you want some tips for landing your first medical device sales job, I've got a video like this. I recommend you check that out. But we've founded Medical Device Sales Academy specifically for this. So we help new college graduates, healthcare workers, and career shifters land their first six-figure med sales job in as little as 90 days by working with them one-on-one to make them recruitment ready, dialing in their personal brand, giving them the networking blueprint, giving them the exact playbook of the interview process, and having them stand out. And when you get in, becoming a top performing rep just like I was. Now we do this because we also run a recruiting company and we're actively building relationships with med device companies. So if I help you to become a desirable candidate and break into the industry, you do me a favor because I get to place you at a company. So if you're interested in applying to Med Device Sales Academy because you want to be coached one-on-one and fast track your way into the industry to land your very first job in med device sales, just click the link in the description of this podcast or this YouTube video and apply. Otherwise, if you just want some free content, this YouTube channel, this podcast, it's the best place to be. Peace.